Okay, and we're live. Thanks very much for joining me today, Dean. We met about starting my journey about 18 months ago on this side of the business when I was actually in New Zealand. So one thing that I suppose we'll dive straight into it. I know you're under time pressure, but one thing that I suppose that I want to know and a lot of our viewers want to know is that you're lucky enough to be in a country that is nearly post-COVID to some degree. How has the virtual tour kind of industry changed during COVID, and how is it going to change after COVID?
Oh, yeah, I guess we're lucky enough to have a different view on I guess how the industry's going. Last year, during basically prime COVID, we had probably a 3 times increase in demand from real estate, and also with the likes of virtual tourism that increased quite dramatically. The ability to sell businesses. Right now, a year later, I would say that we are, because it's a slow start at the beginning of the year, the ability to sell them and market them is definitely still there. We're seeing a lot more opportunities to be able to market for businesses and gyms, daycares, display showrooms, and so on. So I would say the outlook we can't call us post-COVID because we're still watching the world. It's looking positive. It really is looking good. It's just, I guess, it depends on why you're in the game. If you're in this industry, it's irrelevant of the buoyancy in the market. You will, I guess, keep prodding the markets and investigating them. You'll eventually find your space. But yeah, I would say there's definitely an increase in understanding of the potential where it's no longer a gimmick, it's a media channel now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's one of the, I suppose it really kind of came to the fore during this period, and that's what a lot of people are wondering, I suppose, is that this increase in, I suppose, visibility that virtual tours have got during this time, an increase in use cases, how is that going to, I suppose, well, it is going to have a big impact on our industry going forward, because it will have an impact in other industries. So I know that, I suppose, we keep in touch regularly enough, and I know that your business has gone very well since COVID, like a lot of other people. I suppose one thing that I really wanted to dive into, because it's a big question on everybody's minds, is that, I suppose, as you start to grow and as you start to get those increasing inquiries, increasing, I suppose, new customers, what changes has your business had to go through in order to be able to kind of stay on track with that and be able to grow with the kind of, I suppose, increase in visibility?
I think the changes that we've had to go with is just the diversification in the market that's approaching us. Figuring out what you actually are wanting to do. I'll quickly explain the range that we work in so that your audience can understand. And the background of where, I think your background before you come into virtual tours is quite influential on what you do. My background is branding and design and marketing. So we have had a lot of approaches from more design agencies now seeing this as an opportunity. So, hang on. It's no longer just photography, it's now 360 photography. The reason why I was attracted to virtual tours is because it enabled me to communicate better what my client had to offer. And there's nothing better than offering your audience the choice of going left, going right, going up or down. It's just more engagement. So we're having to, so again, to come to your question, it's been clear with where you want to go into the market. So like I said, we are working with the likes of business brokers, real estate agents, industrial tourism, franchise sales, and what we have found is not to necessarily pigeonhole everything into separate funnels, but to take it as that's a project that needs to be captured. And then the story you market with that will give its value to it. Obviously, size of property, the size of the shoot, whatever, it is going to vary, but it's trying to understand that the value you bring to the client in that market will be able to separate you from the competition. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's pick a silo at the moment because there are so many. I'm sure many of our audiences are noting this. many opportunities. What we have decided to do is have our base as our base consistent, I guess, workflow in real estate.
Yeah, yeah.
So at all times we're always marketing, offering real estate agents the opportunity, and like many of us understand, I don't know, in your city, let's say there's 1,000 agents, you need 30, and you're doing okay as to consistently use you, which is a nice goal to try and get, and it shouldn't be too difficult over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then you can silo out your I guess your A, B, and C clients. Our A, B, and C clients are big display showrooms like boat shows, which we do. You may have seen some of the stuff we do with Treatise as a navigational system.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that's an important, I suppose, point that you made there, was that your background very much kind of lends how you enter into this industry, what industries you're most attracted to, purely from a background standpoint. Like I'm the same as yourself, coming from a marketing background, more of a kind of a sales background with that, and where I suppose a lot of my previous work, and I know if somebody was trying to sell a sales and marketing solution to me, the first question is, I suppose, return on investment. I suppose, what return is this going to give me, or how is this going to ultimately help my business? And so a lot of the work I've seen that you've been doing is a lot around kind of more of even the branding side, where it's kind of a really kind of an impressive showcase. And I know that you put a big emphasis on that kind of the capture itself before even, I suppose, implementation. But I also know, I suppose, from our conversations that you're looking towards other industries now, because you enter into this industry with the idea of, I suppose your ideas on how it should be positioned and sold and used. But then you see these opportunities, I suppose, coming from other different angles then, and they're more lucrative, a lot of them as well, and also a lot of, I suppose, underutilized. So what other industry do you have your eyes on for, say, 2021?
Facilities management, I think, is going to be a big one, but I think it's not going to be a case of simply just shooting a virtual tour, giving in the thing and say, hey, look, you can walk around this thing. I think you need to look at integrating into point cloud, where you can integrate the data systems and anything else that they have that runs that business. It's a very, it's just a big shoot.
Yeah.
The shoot means nothing unless it functions well.
Yeah.
So sometimes Metaport's going to do it, or BLK, or you may want to switch into something that's a bit more educational, like a 3D Vista or something like that. But I definitely think the likes of facilities management. I honestly think the real estate's going to kick in at some point. Yeah, whether it's a 10% shift in the ideas. Or the adoption, I do think that most of us should keep that in. Property management is another good one. Looking at a constant base that you can work with. I hate to use the word low shoot price but volume.
Yeah.
That enables you to not have to keep marketing. Whereas within let's say design agencies and stuff, you're needing to keep marketing into them as those bigger clients. There definitely are. Remember, the bigger the value of the shoot or the potential, the harder it is to get that decision maker.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The more tricky it is to get to that person who actually makes that final decision. So it's always good to, as much as we love real estate agents and property managers, they do tend to give you opportunity to I guess pay the bills.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I suppose, that's one thing that usually when I'm having a conversation with somebody and they're going to enter into this industry, or even if they're existing and they're kind of looking for advice on what industries you should focus on, or what industries that they think there's opportunities in, it is very, like, you need to include, like, say, the real estate, hospitality to some degree, and even smaller retail, because they're the quick wins. Your business doesn't survive without quick wins, without money coming in on a weekly and a monthly basis. And they're the ones that can give you those quick wins, where you can start a sales and marketing strategy. You have a call that day, you have a shoot the next day. But it's also good to include those kind of longer sales cycles where the more lucrative projects. So that's one thing. But it's funny how often, I suppose, on a weekly basis, I'm having a conversation with somebody and they're asking me, I suppose, advice on industries, and they're focusing on the real estate and all, but they're working in an industry where they have direct contacts to somebody that that I couldn't enter into that industry if I tried. You might be working in say, oil and gas or a manufacturing plant or a chemical plant, and they have these contacts, the knowledge that you can't come in and just kind of fluff it like you can for some industries. So that's one thing that we usually say to people is really have a look at that. In terms of facility management, it kind of covers, I suppose, a lot of broad areas. Like, is there any particular industries in particular? Like, is it the industrial? Is it say even hospitality, or is it say larger buildings? Or is it for asset management? What are your kind of visions or your goals, I suppose, in terms of that industry?
I think at the moment they all when you're shooting something that size, when you're creating I guess an asset of that value. The space that we seem to have got into is the businesses and brokers that are selling these businesses here, because obviously through COVID, people are looking at, businesses are struggling in New Zealand, and probably there you probably heard of the term industrial tourism. What happens in a business, or let's say a production facility that requires international execs to come and see what they've got to offer. So normally pre-COVID, they would have flown in on business class, set up, taken them through the place, walked them through all the facilities, shown them how it worked. Then their company would have said, yeah, we'll buy our vitamins from you, or can you make it? So that's a bigger market that we're noticing. That's potential. So I think we call that industrial tourism. And then from there, then you can, once that client sees the ability for that to happen, they then are very open to any further discussions, from asset management, tagging. We haven't quite got into that deeper phase yet of being able to say to these guys, look, give us all your tags, because the reality is that's not why they are in this, getting these things done first. They're looking at brokers to be able to market their buildings, or to market their services internationally, without having to fly without the ability to fly anyone in. The likes of deeper facilities management, we're looking at the likes of Frontiera, and they kind of we went and did a show, so they're looking at more of a digital twin for facilities management. It does seem to be higher level conversations, but I tend to think that they'll be much more technical at the top end. Your Faro scanning and stuff. I think if you want to move into that space for precise data collection that they're requiring.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, as I said, like there is a lot of different avenues you can go down once you have, I suppose, the content created even. It's interesting you say industrial tourism. That would have been, I suppose, we would have done a lot of work with industrial plants down through the years, especially in the last couple of years that I was, I suppose, scanning on a day-to-day basis. And it was funny, we used to go into some of these, I suppose, manufacturing plants, and we'd be going in with a solution for, say, employee training, for, say, induction purposes, for remote access, but the basic level of communication between the higher level management was the one common use case throughout all of these plants. All of the other ones, they kind of took them as they come. Some people within, it really depended on the person within the role, whether it was a maintenance role, whether it was a training role, they had their own ideas on how to use it. But the basic communication purposes was very important. Especially what we found is in terms of, I suppose, the industrial tourism was that, especially for new builds, even that they were flying in, I suppose, the C-level executives for just to view a new part of it. And we found that they were spending like massive amounts of money flying in these people to see something that could be done on a virtual level. Yeah. So you also mentioned there is that I suppose you mentioned to me before that you're transitioning a little bit to 3D Vista now. So 3D Vista we know has kind of more capabilities in terms of maybe the more custom e-learning environments. Is that what you're starting to use 3D Vista for, is to kind of add a deeper kind of solution to the virtual experiences?
I think if you get into Matterport, you either really embed with them or you're not. We're quite deep into them. We're very, very, I guess, positive about using their brand as an association with us because we use their equipment and their systems. 3D Vista for us came about because we started getting projects that required some form of training. So we're looking now at, we have clients that are developing like training, healthy homes, for instance, which is we did some Metaports for, I guess, what you call homes that are ill, where people, what happens if a child gets sick and it seems chest, a doctor here will send through the government to inspect the home. So they'll look for mold or whatever it is. So what they've done now is that they're trying to train up the assessors, so when they go to the homes, they know what to look out for behind curtains, messed up, blah, 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 leaky gutters and stuff. So we've started working with them. So what we're doing now is we're shifting. We're going to be exporting the panos out of Matterport and then rebuilding them into 3D Vista with the hotspotting training video. I think is a bit more of a controlled environment for them. And I guess plus they would like to have it as secure on their servers because this is quite sensitive, very sensitive material. The others are for bigger projects. If you think about Matterport is awesome, and we are pushing the limit of what we can scan. Yeah. And we do know that all of us know that when you start going for size, we start to walk.
And you start gambling. You start gambling with the scan.
I think some of our largest scans, we've had like 2,000 points, which is just, it's like anxiety.
Wait for the upload.
It's like we tend to duplicate the model every 100 scan points just to make sure we've got a backup. I don't know if our audience do that, but it's an awesome thing to do. So again, we're looking at wineries and so on, where you've got a bigger space that needs a more high-end type of finish. Mm-hmm. So with the likes of 3D tours and 360 tours and this immersive media, there needs to be different areas of quality. Obviously, with the likes of 3D Vista, you may be doing 360 panoramic photography, which we are now taking on to learn properly. Because you just got more control, just like anything. Do you hire a desktop publisher, or do you hire a designer? And I think that's the difference in the Matterport solution versus, like, say, the 3D Vista solution. Yeah,
exactly. And it is, I suppose, it's funny, like one thing that has become, I suppose, prevalent within these conversations over the past couple of weeks is that, I suppose, the higher quality content will have more use cases within the future as well. Like if you're, I suppose, it is very much a good benefit of spending the time to, I suppose, maybe learn the likes of 3D Vista and also try to capture the higher resolution, because it can be used, I suppose, in future solutions, whereas I suppose the lower quality ones, I suppose technology is advancing, I suppose, and within a couple of years, I suppose 8K could become the norm. So you want to put yourselves in a position to be able to use that. Just going back to the facilities management again, just so I wanted to, I suppose, there's a lot of people having questions on this. So we mentioned, I suppose, a couple of different, I suppose, solutions that you could use. But I suppose one thing that is you said before, was that is like the content on its own does nothing. You need to have some sort of a background and a solution in place to be able to deliver the content and have a real plan of how they can actually use it going forward. Because, as you said, like these more lucrative industries are more lucrative because we're not dealing with sales and marketing solutions. We're dealing with solutions that can be used on a day-to-day basis to enable processes and save them time and money. So when you're working with some of these companies, I suppose, is there a need for it to be able to kind of integrate it with their own kind of maintenance solutions or their own kind of, I suppose, asset management solutions? Or what do you see as some of the important points that you need to kind of, I suppose, be able to, I suppose, decide on when you're, or even question them when you actually are, I suppose, approaching them?
Good question. Each of them vary. I mean, like we do, we all have our own sales process. The one thing that I would say is to understand who the old audience is. Now, it's a slight deviation from your question, but if you think about the managers in these roles, these guys have got 1,000 moving pieces.
Yeah.
To bring another moving piece like what we've got and to learn the system is quite tricky. It's like, oh, now I've got to take another system on. So the idea is to try and market this product to them to say, well, look, what do you want to do as a manager? What legacy do you want to leave behind? Changing systems, because the reality is when a manager takes over, a facilities manager or a CEO takes over, they tend to take over what is always in place. We are now offering that CEO the ability to now digitize, to modernize, to take another approach, another angle, because this is the way of the future. So we're trying to help to start with finding the right CEO or the right manager in that right headspace before we continue. Because as you know, it's what's the point of doing all of this if it ends up in someone's link somewhere and doesn't get used? So you really need the buy-in of the managers first before you even attempt this. Because if we're just doing this for money, it's just a paid job that ends. But if you're doing this for a relationship, you need to understand that, yes, we are here to help this. You project the company into another light amongst your peers. So, and just to back to your question, what are the advantages of having this? I mean, you can just name them forever. You know, it's everything that's just on screen now. You know, so what we're trying to do is trying to understand how to capture big spaces first. You know, I don't think Matterport is necessarily the best product for that at the moment. But and then how to, we're trying to, we're looking at integrating systems into the point cloud, so that they can data manage via point cloud virtual tour.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose I know with some of the other platforms, likes of say Capture 3D and all, I suppose they're giving us even more kind of, I suppose, capabilities in terms of, especially in terms of facilities management. I suppose a lot of the innovation in the space, especially with the Matterport SDK, is kind of based around these kind of industries, especially with likes of say being able to build in say, or being able to hook up say IoT sensors to the AR capabilities of the Matterport. There's a lot of this coming down the line, and I suppose one thing is that if you have the space captured in the first place, you'll be in a position to be able to offer these other solutions as they come down the road. So I suppose that comes to my next question, the thing that everybody wants to know in no matter what industry, I suppose, like how do you go about, I suppose, approaching, give us a little bit of insight into, I suppose, your sales and marketing process when it comes to these higher level industries where a Facebook ad or a flyer in the door is not going to cut it.
We've been lucky. I mean, we've generally been approached.
that's good, right?
You know, I guess because we're in New Zealand, it's a small. We've been around for just over 3 years now, so the whole time we've kind of been approached. I think one thing that has worked well for us is approaching design agencies that work in those spaces, because they tend to. What we've noticed is we work with. We're starting to work with a company called Chemistry. Chemistry are now approached us because they wanted to target an entire the retirement home industry. They asked us to put a virtual tour into photography, and so together to help them win the pitch. They now see the advantage. Now they want to roll as this is an asset to the agency to now pitch to other industries. Now the agency is very happy to listen to us on ideas that we have. You know, that's how we tend to go through the system. The one-to-ones and the finding out who to talk to is quite tricky. Like I said, the bigger projects that we've done are just winning off the back of the current projects. Like if I had to think back, our first big win would have been during COVID, would have been Ray Glass boats. Which off the back of that virtual tour, I believe nearly $3 million worth of sales. From that, another client sought, which was Tapari. Tapari have just completed their night train their guy to shoot also and create more. From there, we've just got another client, and it's just rolling on. And each project you get, especially within the one-off higher value, has a different approach. So clients start to listen to you not from just a Matterport point of view, but from a solution point of view, because they really don't know what to do in this space. They want to be the first. They want to be early to the market, and they want someone to tell them. So now you're talking consultancy. Now, when it comes to finding your bigger key players, I think they will find you anyway, because if once they're going into that space, they tend to look for who's done this, who has done it, and what happens is, let's face facts. You know, those CEOs talk to each other, they keep an eye on each other, and they say, "Look at my new toy. Who did that for? So I think but just making sure you've got your content ready to go and how to talk to them when they arrive is very important. Going after them, there's almost no real, for us at the moment, no real need to. Like I said, because we're quite busy in real estate property management, we are also advancing our markets into hospitality, franchising, and so on to help more businesses.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's actually, it's funny when we won quite a, I suppose, a landmark project, I suppose, about 2 years into my business scanning, and we tried to leverage that to go after similar customers, but it took us about 6 months to realize that we could not get a meeting with these customers if we tried. And that's exactly what you said then. We looked to more so partnerships or companies that worked with these companies. Could we scratch their back and then they scratch their back? And then that ended up being quite a successful one. But it's a lot of that you kind of learn through trial and error. And it does come down to, as you said as well, like referrals. In the bigger industries, referrals are an important part of it. And kind of, I suppose, a flagship customer means we'll share information, but you won't get a meeting with them. And that's just kind of the realistic nature of it a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's also repeat business, like Reglass Boats now. They're shooting a brand new virtual tour, complete redone one. Because I mean, who ever thought you could sell multi-million-dollar boats from virtual tours?
Yeah.
I mean, they're reporting things like clients are going through the virtual tour. They have nearly what I believe last I heard was an average view time of 24 minutes in their virtual tour, and they're having 200 a week. That's
pretty impressive.
Yeah. But they've just called us again. So off the back of this, now you now have kudos to say you have a product that works, and it will keep going. And these are top-end CEOs that are just we will keep going with it, because I think if people we realize it, we're looking at this as the marketing channel. Again, we will do work for, say, a high-end furniture showroom. Then the offshoot from there, you've got to look at where your avenues are. That could be your interior designers who want to show off what they've done, or move it backwards to talk to the owner of the facility and say, well, look, do you have a manufacturing? Let us show your brand, what that looks like. So it's just trying to find. We all believe that virtual tours are for every space possible. Yes, it is, but reality is.
Reality is you need something backing it up a lot of times. So
I mean, for me, one of the ultimate goals. I mean, we have secured an agency here. Securing an agency doesn't mean you've secured the agents. That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
And again, like we've had such success with one agent where she was doing an average of, through COVID, she probably sold 60 houses, which is incredible. Her closest competition was 15.
Yeah.
But they just, yes, she's an awesome agent, but that is, even post-COVID, she's still up there, and the others are even falling behind. So, I think if you can definitely win in real estate, you will have an awesome base to relax into your conversations at a higher level, and you can not take a risk, but just charge more for your trip of what you're bringing to the table for these guys.
Yeah, so absolutely. Yeah, once you have, like, I suppose a track record speaks a lot. Like, and people are, as I said, they're influenced by reviews, results. That's what, especially when there's so much noise, there's a lot of competition in the space, there's a lot of business entering the space, and that putting time and effort into, I suppose, proving that you know what you're doing and you have a process that works, and you have, I suppose, customers back that up is always a great thing. Just touching on that, I know that, I suppose, when we would have talked, I suppose, even 12 months ago, was that one of the things that we would have discussed, I suppose, even in one-on-one conversations, would have been how to kind of go about, I suppose, when you get a new customer on board, like, what can you do to ensure that you get some sort of results or some sort of platform to be able to use that to go on to the next one. And I know that you spend some time, I suppose, developing case studies and that sort of thing. And how have those kind of things helped your business when it comes to the sales and marketing process?
Sorry. I'm just trying to remember case studies. We do dentists.
You did one for the daycares, I remember, and you got brilliant results.
So the daycares, what we did was, and this was a sales process that we did. We you know, paying it forward, we put a Facebook ad out to the local community in our area and said, well, what we would like to help a daycare, you know, a free virtual tour.
Yeah.
Which we allowed which we allowed, you know, the locals voted for one. We did a virtual tour of that, and off the back of that, the case study proved that the virtual tour increased the revenue by 20%, and they are fully booked up until 2023.
Okay. Whoa. Well, that's
and this is from a daycare that's had an incident. They suffered a death 4 years ago and couldn't recover. It was a freak case, but obviously with the daycare's parents. So these guys have rolled it out. Following that, we then went to telemarketing. So we set the script up. We hired a telemarketer, set $1,000 to it. They ended up phoning 150 daycares around Auckland. It's incredible how many daycares are around. And we asked them to rate what their gut feeling was. 1 to 3 of this is a hot and a cold. I just wanted clarity of where I'm chasing.
Yep.
And out of 150, we probably had about 90 very warm leads.
Okay. And you would accredit that to the case study and been able to, I suppose, back up what you have to offer with the results that you proved.
Yeah, I credit it definitely that I believed. Look, if you believe there's a market that you should be going into, pay it for yourself. Create that market. See if it is what you believe it is.
Yeah. Really
test it. There's no, you know, it's only our time and our processing. It's you know, that's your data collector.
Yeah.
So off the back of that, now we are now meeting with a company called NewMat, who fit out daycare playgrounds, who are now wanting to potentially see if they can add us to their marketing strategy when they pitch to daycare to say, look, we will supply you with a virtual tour and Google Street. So you can see how these things dovetail into each other.
Yeah.
You become better value to someone else. They go, this is awesome. And the weird thing is, this deal is off the back of Tapari, which was off the back of everything comes off the back of something else on our game. You know, someone needs to see something that works. In real estate, I know I'm coming back to real estate. It works because the homeowners are loving it and they're feeling safe with it. What we need to do is find a higher value for the homeowner. To say, look, it's not up to the agent, it's up to you, and this is why you need to get this, or you should get this, or the advantage of having this.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is one of the, I suppose, the real estate is one that is, I suppose, people go after mostly, but it's not an easy one to sell, and it's quite funny. Usually, as you go up the pay ladder, it gets a little bit easier to sell for some reason, but the lower value ones, you really have to fight for, I suppose, why they need it. How they can implement it, how it can actually help their business progress, and not just be used as a sales tool. And what are some tricks, I suppose, that you've learned seem to be the best way to approach it, or what have you learned through, I suppose, working with agencies?
I think agencies, you just got to be direct and straight to the point. You know, it's this is not a silver bullet. But what it's going to do is keep you, I guess, in the market against your competition. You know, we're not asking you to sell. We're asking you to add this as an upgrade if you feel you'd like to try and win the competition. So removing the pressure from the agent, what we've noticed, to say, well, look, you know, he'll market us and we'll do virtual tours and photography. Yes, and this is the other thing that the year before last, when you go into real estate, the agents tend to pressurize you. Oh, we want a one-stop shop. You tend to get, oh, now I'm a real estate photographer who does virtual tours. Yeah. So very quickly we realized we were going in the wrong direction. So we backed out and said, look, we're always going to be partnering with their preferred supplier, or offering something, where we work with real estate photographers or videographers, and we will work out bundle deals with those guys.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're always going to get photographers offering Matterport or virtual tours, but from doing it ourselves, we know the mistakes that can happen. I'm sure you've done it yourself, where you just, a 25-minute shoot becomes an hour and 25 or an hour and 45. So the mistakes, the foot gets caught, you get caught. So very much focusing on where we fit in the life cycle of that marketing structure. We do floor plans, we do Matterport, and then we can extract and enhance imagery if you want, but we also have bundle deals where we work with photographers that say we only want 15 photos.
Yeah, and that's I suppose that's important as well, because ultimately, if I suppose all those leads will come back to you in return then as well at later stages, is what I always found, is that don't try to do everything under the one roof. Outsource when you need to outsource, and a lot of times you will get it back. You will get the favor back, which is always a good thing.
I think that's the thing with real estate, is to make sure that, and especially even if you wanted to concentrate on this team and manage it all of it, send a double team in. One team that does photography, drone, and one team that does Matterport. Yeah, Matterport needs to be by itself. Someone really needs to concentrate on that thing, because it's that's your highest asset. But we're trying to reverse the industry to say the most important thing for us is the Matterport, then the floor plan, then the photography, not the photography, floor plan, Matterport. And let's face it, once your audience goes through the virtual tour, they never really go back to the photos. So that's you tell your agent or your agency that, and they kind of mean you are right. Why would we tend to overshoot. We shoot at 30% more, but right now in New Zealand, the average property is sitting 14 days on the market. So we're not helping sell; we're trying to help win.
Yeah, exactly, and that's it. That's what most people. That's what I suppose when I'm having a conversation with someone. That's what I say is, if position it as a listing tool, position it as a way for them to help increase their market share through winning more listings. If the properties are selling, you don't need it to sell a property, but you are competing for the listings at the end of the day. And if I'm a homeowner and I want to sell my property, why should I sell with you over somebody else? And that's really the conversation that needs to be had. And it seems to be one that works quite well as well, because it's good to enter a conversation with real estate agents, and they have the misconception as a sales tool, because it allows you to be able to kind of reverse the roles and set that perceived value at a higher level, and have a conversation about their business and their objectives and their market share, and not about the actual, even the tour itself. Showing them how they can use it and utilize it to actually help them grow their business. And that's one good thing about being in a hot market, because it means they also have the availability of money. If the properties are selling, they know it's going to sell, so they do have money to invest, as opposed to a cold market where nobody wants to spend a thing.
And I think that's the whole thing. I mean, coming back to your original question, what is it like post-COVID with real estate? Last year it was very buoyant. I mean, we were shooting 10 a week, probably more. It has dipped down, but the agents that were using us and that are really have added it as this is a non-option.
Yep.
They're still doing well. The other agents seem to have dropped off. So again, I wouldn't say the adoption is going to be permanent.
Yep.
You're still going to have to, but you have now a base to work with to say, well, look, these are successful agents. Do you want to join them in the ranks of securing your next property? Let us help you secure. What we do like to do is when we do what we call caravanning, where you go and have a presentation, we like to set the agents a challenge. We say, well, look, we will gift the agency 5 to test out. If you use them, you pay them. If you don't use them, they're still there. It's just another way to test them out with us. It's an hour. If you look at, I don't know what whatever you charge for your time on a shoot. Let's say you give them one apartment, one bedroom, one 2-bedroom, one 3-bedroom. For them to try out and see what it's like, regardless of whether they or to be able to upgrade their offer. without the pressure of trying to sell that product. I think that's it. You get agents that will dump. Because what I'm seeing with agents is that they'll go to their vendor or potential seller and say, well, you pick what you want. Yes, some photos, yes, some video, yes, some, let's face facts. Agents that know exactly tell the vendor what they need to use will always win. So by helping the agent understand that this is right now it's your winning formula.
Yep.
You tend to, I guess it's just feed the breeder.
Yeah. And I suppose, do you see it as, I suppose, one of the things that I'm not being pessimistic about it, but in in the future for the likes of real estate, because it is an easy process and the quality is getting better, the scanning techniques are getting easier, and that's going to keep increasing. Like, do you see this as something that is going to be done in-house a lot more within real estate companies, especially at agency level? Or where do you see, I suppose, the role of, say, a 360 or Matterport photographer even a year or two from now, as more real estate companies probably will adopt this in-house? Do you need to become more of a specialist? Do you need to be able to, I suppose, bundle it with other services that are more results orientated? Or how do you see that role kind of evolving?
From a real estate, we have noticed one major agency here that's boutique that offer virtual tours of everything. They've got it in-house. So, and literally they are dominating the market as a boutique. They moved from one agency to 3 locations in very rare. And so I would say
it's a hard one to answer.
All agencies would bring it in because I'm trying to get us embedded into. But I would say on average, they are not media and real estate assets are cheap enough to buy from anybody.
Yeah.
So you look in the likes of the Ricos and the quality does change. I think in the future we only tend to shoot with Pro 2s. We do have a Rico which we use to test out or something like that. We will try find a market for it, but I think agencies will just stick with the ability to chop and change with suppliers because that just keeps the price low.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
If you commit to someone, I guess one of the better spaces would be going to say the rental market, where you're gathering a digital rent roll, which is what we're doing as well. We've got in the rental market, we've probably got about maybe 200 models that are just a digital rent roll for us. The clients and that secures a longer client, because when you cross over a certain amount, well, if you don't want to work with me, well, I'll just up. How does it work thereafter? I have the virtual tours. There's an understanding. I mean, if you set up, we don't tend to set up their servers, and I guess that comes to the new Matterport model of understanding. If you can understand how to work within their, their hosting plan, you will be successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can charge larger annual hosting, and that covers a lot of your offset your costs on the lower and stuff.
And how do you usually approach the hosting? Do you for real estate? Do you do it by, say, quarterly basis, half yearly, or yearly usually?
Real estate, all of ours come with a 3-month.
3 months,
so,
okay.
And then we'll if it's required further, depending on how many shoots we're doing, what we can do is charge $10 a month or something if you want to continue. But right now, when you're shooting volume with real estate, they go in and out so quick. And then we archive. We never delete. We don't know what the value of these are going to be. These digital twins are going to be in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, I know you need to go now in a minute, but I just have some questions here. Let me just put them up on it. So this one is an age-old question: how do you stand out in the market that sees the service as a commodity? So what would you say to that?
It's a big question. How do we stand out? I don't think there's any way of standing out. I think it depends on who you are as a person. if you like selling, get out and sell. For me, if I'm not picking up the phones, it doesn't give me energy to it depends on who you are. It's pick your mark. How do you stand out?
Well, I suppose it comes back to your background, as we said as well. Like use whatever background you have. If you have a background in sales and marketing, use that to your advantage. If you have a background in tourism or hospitality, you know insights that other people don't know, and try and leverage those insights and try and align those advantages that can be utilized with virtual tours to that, because background does stand for a lot, because it is a new industry and people have use cases that there's new solutions coming out on a weekly basis. We all see it through all the Facebook groups. I see it. This great thing about these interviews.
Let's remember that we're the only ones seeing the solutions.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think because we live in a bubble of virtual tours and 360 imagery and photography.
Yeah,
our clients are not, because generally when you approach them, they have no idea this even existed. So I think it's a mindset going, well, there's lots of competition. The reality is, yes, it's easy to get in, very hard to sell. I think you and I had a conversation once where it says with every 100 that come, 95 go, because it's just not a business. You have to choose what to be good at. And I would say, how do you stand out? Is to just to go to networking meetings, tell people what you do, get your ad word up and going. It says virtual tour. If it's ever searched, they can find your brand. We are continually evolving our website. We're doing it again now because we're getting clearer with what the audience needs to understand. Not what I understand, what the audience needs to understand. Why do you want this thing? Yes, it isn't nice to have.
Yeah, that's a good answer. So let me see. Another one here from Mark says, so the shoot outside of real estate should only be beginning of the relationship. Do you agree? So I think what he means by that is that, I suppose, is like the content itself is really the start of it, and is the solution is more so, I suppose, the longer term thing. Is that what I think he means?
The shoot outside of real estate. I'm a little jaded when it comes to relationships in real estate, because again, it's they're always open for the next deal. I think the point is just to deliver, always over deliver in real estate, and you will keep, yes, with again, the problem with going into real estate is the demand steps up. I want photography, I want this, I want that. And we're all shiny object people. How can I keep this real estate agent by offering photography? How can I keep this real estate agent who's giving me 5 shoots a month or 7-10 shoots a month by offering them video? Do you want to go down that space? That's because it's that device. If you enjoy it, go. For us, we can offer all that, and we did. I mean, I'm a graphic designer, but that's not where I want to go. I want them to realize that you come to us for very high-end professional virtual tours. We are an add-on to your marketing, and that's where we want to stay, because we want to go for more lucrative clients who are in the facilities management, the one-offs that are paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a shoot.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the last question. So are you choosing one set editing technology, or do you switch accordingly? So I know that you said you're using maybe 3D Vista and Matterport. Well, maybe more so, what are you, I suppose, how are you maybe leveraging some of the tools, that third-party tools that Matterport provides for your business, in terms of maybe MP Embed, Treatise, Open House Live? What ones are you using to kind of add that extra value to your services?
We use them all.
It's just an industry.
You have to, because it's a different market where these guys at the third party level are really very competitive, and Treatise does an awesome job for what our client does, but we use Treatise because our client came to us and said we want to use this. Yeah. We were previously using, and we are using, MP Embed, but I think it just depends on the look and feel. Right now, Treatise works well with real estate. Not real estate, works well with retail and the likes of that. We MP Embed, we like it because it works well within, say, the construction space. It's or engineering. It's very much more that, I guess, grunchier. It looks a bit more grunchier. It just depends on your client, and again, the nuances that you want to offer. my advice is not to chuck everything at the client. Begin them with the virtual tour and show, hey, look, you can click through and look around. And look, I can take you outside. That already is mind-blowing to them.
Yeah, yeah.
Why don't I show you what your entire building looks like?
Yeah.
That if we can always remember what, I guess in parting, if we can remember what got us excited about doing this business, they are at that position where we came in.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
To sell it because you can add value by going, oh, by the way, why don't I charge you $10 a meditate?
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, we tend to forget that, I guess because we're so involved with it. Like I said, all the technology and stuff we're seeing, they're not. So there's no need to dump it too much because it's just like anything. What's that saying? Pitch up and throw up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're presenting, you literally can over-present to them, and it's just too much. They don't know where to go. So just keep things simple. The fact that you have digitized the entire space that allows someone to walk through from anywhere in the world. How awesome is that?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. So no feature overload, basically.
The other thing I'd say is join awesome groups. You know, MOG is good. I'm a member of RCE, excellent group. You know, we're expanding all the time. These are awesome people that have continued. I think you're RCE, aren't you?
I'm RCE, yeah.
It's very important to be around like-minded, positive thinking people who are there to help you understand. It's the same process, just a different story that needs to go with the sale.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's still a relatively small community, even though it's growing. But in the grand scheme of things, compared to other industries, I know we all think it's huge because we live it and breathe it every day. And I suppose a lot of the best information is through the likes of, say, as you said, through the likes of Moog and through the Facebook communities. That's where we're seeing the new people building new solutions on a weekly basis, and like it is a growing industry. So it is very tight knit, and it is very, I suppose, into one place. So there's no really kind of hidden, I suppose, hidden solutions. We see a lot of it at kind of face value, which is great at most times.
And right now, I think collaboration is better than competition. If we can find a way to collaborate, even in your own city, your own neighborhood, try to collaborate on projects so that there's someone, because at some point you're going to get busy and you need to trust someone. So it's another way of expanding your business without actually having to bring in, I guess, staff and say, look, I have a job, let me give you a portion to shoot for me, most of it, and you just carry my brand for me. So you learn from each other. You know, who you're going to, I mean, most of us in the Matterport space are global, you know. Look, I have, my competition's increased, but I try and be very aware who's available in the country.
Yeah.
You know, I generally know who's around in the country or in my city.
Yeah.
It's not that much, but to keep an eye on them and help them when they do make mistakes. Like one of the things we try to do is help them shoot better.
Yeah.
Point out like how they can improve on their Matterport shoots, you know, camera height. And because if they're not doing a good job, they're going to wreck your industry for you.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I suppose as you said, like it's like a bad shoot can turn a potential customer off. Like they might see it and
can turn a whole agency off.
Yeah,
you know, behind this guy, the Matterport looks rubbish. Are we just not going to go that way anymore? Well, my whole 30, 40 agents out the market.
Yeah.
Bang.
yeah, it's amazing.
I better get going. I've got to drop a sign.
You have to be in, bro. Yeah, thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And we'll get you on another stage. Thanks for everybody for joining us. And we'll see you all later.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.